have photos of top Rothschild family members wearing Baphomet necklaces at sporting events. I mean, old women with giant chains around their neck and in a $5,000 gown with Baphomet. I mean, this is what they're into, because it's all about, you're animals, we're going to eat you. See, they don't just kill us, they embrace it. Now, I give you Fritz Springmeier, author of Bloodlines, the Illuminati. He's going to speak about 30 minutes, then we'll open the phones up in the last 45. But he joins us today. Fritz Springmeier, Bloodlines, the Illuminati, available at Infowars.com. And when I read this, it had to be, I don't know, 99 or so. I don't remember. I was sent a copy. Been on air a few years. I was like, this can't be true. But then over the years, so much of it turned out to be true. I mean, I was there at Bohemian Grove when they were doing the mock ritual of killing a child. And the old men, I was like, oh, this is interesting. They were like, be quiet. And they were just going like, I mean, this was religious. I mean, I've been in Baptist churches and Holy Rolling churches growing up, folks, and these people were getting off on it more than Christians worshiping God. I mean, they were in rapture. Fritz Springmeier, good to have you here with us, my friend.
Thank you, Alex. Good to be with you and all your listeners.
Do you agree or disagree with anything I just said in the last 10 minutes?
I thought you were doing a good job of covering things.
Okay, I'm going to just do something different.
Don't have a problem with it.
Well, thank you, my friend. I'm going to, this segment and the next few, I'm going to just sit back, whatever issues you want to cover about the ruling elite, the families, who they are, whatever direction you want to go in. I know you sent some photos that we're going to put on screen. Radio listeners can later go to Infowars.com. We'll post the videos by tomorrow of this interview so people can check this for themselves. But you've got the floor, Fritz.
Okay, well, thank you. You mentioned a couple things that were related to what I had in mind. One is, as you mentioned, Philip de Rothschild, and I wanted to bring out some of the misconceptions about the Illuminati. And one of the misconceptions is that the Rothschilds are a European phenomenon, but the Philip de Rothschild, she and her husband, the Baron, went into business with Robert Mondavi down in Napa Valley, California. So we've got Rothschilds all across the United States. That family is not just a European phenomenon. And you're going to show a picture of her that you have. So that's great. I also wanted to discuss along that line some of the other misconceptions that people have about the Illuminati. One of them is that all of these members in the Illuminati are kingpins in the Illuminati. That's sort of like imagining that within a tribe, all of them are chiefs. It's not the case. Some of these people are just low-level flunkies. It's just like an analogy is like there's millions of gods in Hinduism. You know, you have Vishnu and Tara and Shiva and Kali, but a lot of these, the majority of gods, nobody's even heard of them. They're obscure. So some of these illuminated members of the Illuminati are not kingpins in any shape or form. They're not all chiefs in this tribe. But your pillars of society are very oftentimes Illuminati, and that's one of the misconceptions, too, that people have is, you know, when we get into discussing these people, you know, we can look at the dark side of them, like you were bringing out. There's a dark side to them. But to make another analogy, when Christians read the Bible and they read about the Pharisees, they see all the negative things that Christ said about them. Oh, these people are snakes, you know. And they think that the Pharisees were just horrible. But if you lived back then, who were the Pharisees? They were the people's role models. A Pharisee had a lot of power. He was the equivalent of several things wrapped up in one. Not only was he the equivalent of a Supreme Court justice, but also a congressman and the head of a Bible college.
And a judge.
And plus and they had the reputation of somebody like Billy Graham. So these were the people that a mother would want her child to emulate. I want my son to grow up to be like that Pharisee, you know. And so we're dealing with the same thing today. These Illuminati kingpins, a lot of them are pillars in society. Some of them, their occupation is philanthropist. A philanthropist, that means he spends his time giving money away. So it's not like they're not doing good deeds. It's not like that, like they're just.
Fritz, let me stop you. Fritz, your Skype.
Them making it 60.
Fritz, your Skype's breaking up a bit. It was great last week. We may have to reconnect. I even skipped the break here to give you time, but then it started breaking up. But just to be clear, Bill Gates put his $80 billion in a tax-free foundation. It makes money, and now it's tax-free, and he's buying up big pharma, everything, and living off of it, and then using what money, the profit it makes, to steer society. But then we're told, oh, he's giving to us. Yeah, he's giving us poison GMO.
Yes, their giving is within their own self-interests and promotes their agendas.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's not altruistic like we might think. Can you hear me better?
Yes,
now?
you're better now. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. So, just letting people realize that they're the ones who created this system. They're making a large share of the important decisions of this system. If they were to evaporate and all disappear, we would not have the system like we have it today, because they play an important role in things. Unfortunately, a lot of the agendas and decisions that they're making are really scary. If they were to all disappear tomorrow, I feel confident we wouldn't have such large wars like the Cold War, World War II, World War I. These were manufactured wars that they created. And one of the things that people read about in the Bloodlines book, they will see the document there that the Secretary of the Treasurer Morgenthau and FDR put into law on December 13th, 1941, a few days after Pearl Harbor. They very quietly made this law that allows certain people to trade with the enemy. And who were the types of people that could trade with the enemy? Onassis, Rockefeller. Oh, these people are Illuminati kingpins making big bucks off of World War II. There were like 450 Greek ships prior to World War II. Almost all of them were sunk at some point or the other in different places around the world by the two sides, because we had a world war going on. However, Aristotle Onassis' ships were never attacked, no matter where they were sailing, and they sailed to all parties.
Let me just stop you. Guys, you can pull up while he's talking, because this is so key. Only Halliburton was allowed under the sanctions in the last decade plus to sell oil field equipment to Iran. And the same thing, they were allowed with a handful of groups to sell to Saddam. They put the sanctions in to shut down all their competition. It's the same trick. You have to know what page of the book that document's on. I want to show it to people.
Correct. It's, I don't right offhand, because I don't have a copy.
I'll look in the bibliography. What would that be under? Trading with the enemy? I'll look it up. Keep going.
So we have wars that are created, manufactured wars. Then you got a lot of the storylines. I just laugh because they remind me of Back to the Future and Biff. You know, you have this. Like Aristotle Onassis, his family was from Turkey, and he goes to Argentina I think he was like 19 when he went to Argentina, Buenos Aires, and he was washing dishes and arrived as a refugee, penniless, and within a year, he was a millionaire. And people say, well, he just worked long hours at washing dishes. What was their family involved in back in Turkey? Well, it was applying opium. And there's a group of men in Europe that have made decisions, the Council of 300 men, wise men, that for a couple centuries at least have made the decisions for Europe. And they decided which families would be allowed to trade in the opium. One of the families that they decided that they would allow to become rich was the Astor family. So we have another Biff in Back to the Future story where we have this guy, John Jacob Astor I, and I sent you a picture of him. The guy was a butcher helping his dad, and then he comes to America. And his brother in New York City was given a monopoly by the British when they were controlling New York City during the American Revolution. He was given a monopoly by the British to supply the beef for the British Army that occupied New York City during the war. What a lucrative monopoly. And strangely, nobody ever wonders or questions someone like John Jacob Astor about his British affiliations. You would think that after Americans had fought a war against Britain, that they would be suspicious of.
Well, let me back you up on this. Let me back you up. It's admitted with Skull and Bones. We're going to reconnect after the break with you on Skype to make sure it's a little bit clearer, but most of it's clear, Fritz, but key information. The trading with the enemy, type stuff. Look at Skull and Bones. Look at the Bushes, the main U.S. agents of the Nazis allowed to get away with it, backing up what you've said. And that's what they say about Skull and Bones and the documents that have been leaked. You're given money and power, but you're told it's always given to the group, and you're going to be given this money, but only to control it for the collective. And that's like Bill Gates, his dad's Army intelligence, some out of nowhere head of Planned Parenthood, big eugenicist. His son is then given, we've now documented, technologies that were there, allowed to have the monopoly for a while. IBM gives it away to him, that run by Watson, the big eugenicist, who said in his deathbed, we've got to set up all these subsidiaries so that we get around the laws on monopolies. I mean, you just see it. And yeah, here's that document where all the big U.S. companies were allowed to fund Hitler right through the war. And I've talked to pilots, and most of them are dead now, but it's on record, that they couldn't bomb the General Motors and Ford plants in Germany that were making the tanks our troops were fighting. The whole thing was a New World Order war against humanity. Okay, he's with us for the entire next hour. Wasn't him for 2 hours, but just so much news I had to get to. But understanding these people, I don't believe they're a bunch of crazy occultists in a ancient mafia that predates Christianity, so of course it's a cult. That's what was there before that. I know it, and there's so much evidence of it. I was just showing Baroness Philippine de Rothschild with devil necklaces, Baphomet necklaces at public events. This is an old woman who looks like something out of a nightmare movie. Looks like a Janet Napolitano or something. And she's got devil necklaces. And then I've got all the lore and the news articles and the connections to the Rothschilds and the occult and funding occult groups and the Rockefellers. And then, of course, you also talk about the guy that they made the movie Rosebud or Citizen Kane about. The Hearst dynasty. I mean, and I've been to his castle in California. It's devils and demons and pentagrams everywhere. And I mean, of course, he's reportedly involved in all this. Please continue.
Yeah, while we're on William Randolph Hearst, okay, let's see. It says something here about my connection. Am I still connected?
You're still connected. We're going to reconnect during the next break, though. Go ahead.
Okay, well, speaking about William Randolph Hearst, I sent you a picture of him because he's riding on a carousel, and those people that have gotten in touch with my books on the mind control will recognize that the carousel is used in programming children, and Patty Hearst being programmed with Illuminati mind control, programmed multiple personality. And then you mentioned the Hearst Mansion, which follows right in line with something else that you were saying. The state of California has taken over the maintenance of his mansion, but when it's closed, I know people have informed me that when they close that off to the public, they will oftentimes have Illuminati rituals quietly on the property. So yes, San Simeon mansion there is definitely some Illuminati ritual property.
And I got to stop you again. Your book talks about Patty Hearst being under mind control program. Now it's come out saying she was basically mind controlled and that the FBI knew it and that the government was involved with her. That stuff you wrote about 17 years ago.
Yes. Wow. Okay. So yeah, that's one of the things that just like you're saying, when people read this, if they find something hard to believe, just put it on the shelf, because maybe in a year or 2 years, you're going to start seeing the proof for yourself. You're going to see it before your eyes, because now your eyes are open. Yeah, it's all around us. Every day I see this stuff, and I kind of just tune it out, because it's just, I've gotten so used to it being all around. So Astor was this. It's interesting how they choose these people, because John Jacob Astor was not somebody that you would think typically would become the most richest man in the United States, which he did. When he arrived in the United States, he couldn't speak English, and when he tried to, it sounded like he had marbles in his mouth. He was a very crude, unsocial man.
Stop right there. Long segment coming up. I don't want to start over with this. This is too important. You're breaking up a bit. We're going to reconnect with you and come back with Fritz Springmeier on the other side. The book is Bloodlines of the Illuminati, full of documentation. And just whenever Fritz says something, there's all these connections to just proving all of it. About how it's all rigged, both sides of a war, how they're always allowed to trade with the enemy and vice versa. And then they'll even betray their minion like Hitler, and then it comes out there were secret treaties with Hitler in England. And that's why Rudolf Hess flew there. And it all is staged. It's incredible. We'll be right back. Now, going back to Fritz, you were getting into the Astors, other elite families. Why do they choose people, it seems, from nowhere to then elevate them up into a system that has royal families in it? Please continue, Fritz Springmeier.
Yes, I was talking about John Jacob Astor the first, not somebody that you would think would be successful in life. He one time he's recorded as while he was eating a meal, his hands were dirty, so he reached over and cleaned his hands on the white shirt of the guy next door to him. So he had no social graces. He spoke like he had marbles in his mouth. It was hard to understand his crude English. Not somebody that you would think would rise to the top of society. But he was given the blessing of the Committee of 300 that they were going to elevate the Astors and they were going to make them rich. And so he comes over to the United States, and the fur trade, which was 100% profit. I mean, it was like gold. It was a lucrative business. And it had been going on for hundreds of years, but within a short time, he has a monopoly over the whole fur business. Now, how does that happen? And then he's given a special license to trade during the War of 1812, where he makes incredible amount of money trading with the enemy. And our president, President Jefferson, allowed him to do this. And then the Committee of 300 gave him the blessing. He was the first American family to be able to be involved in the opium trade.
By the way, I'm going to stop you again. I've had former MI6 people on. It's been confirmed. As you know, the Committee of 300 that they denied existed 20 years ago, they now admit. It ties in Bilderberg, Trilateral, all the major groups. It's basically British intel, as you know. There you are, 17 years ago, writing about it, Fritz, and then expanding on that. I can't tell you how many researchers who aren't even into looking at the occult angle, Dr. Dennis Cuddy, so many countless others we've interviewed over the years, who will confirm that David Rockefeller or others are obsessed with genealogies of families and people. And there'll be some guy who's, top of his class, but of tens of thousands nationwide are in the top of the class. And there'll be David Rockefeller or Brzezinski at their little college they're in. in the lunch line saying, come with us. I mean, they actually personally, and is that what you're about to get to? This has to do with bloodlines, correct?
Right. I'm just letting people get an awareness of how they operate. Sometimes people think that somebody rises to the top, like our last president, Bush. He rose to the top because he was the best man for the job of president. No, he became president because of what family he belonged to, and because somebody made the decision to elevate him into that role. But he was placed in that. It's like a big stage theater act where somebody decides, okay, we're going to have this person play this role. He can be president for this scene, and he can play the king for that scene. These people are not intrinsically the best for the job. And so John Jacob Astor was sending his ships to Turkey and getting his opium from sources like the Onassis family, and then they would ship them to China and make their big profits. So there was a book, Dope Incorporated. Maybe you read that book. And interestingly, of the top 13 Illuminati bloodlines that I wrote about in the book that you've been talking about, 9 out of those 13 are mentioned in doing drug trading. So it's just like this Back to the Future with Biff. You get somebody who rises out of obscurity, like Aristotle Onassis or John Jacob Astor, and become incredibly wealthy. He became the wealthiest man.
They're just front men. I mean, I've studied Bill Gates. It was all given to him. We were just showing, for people that are watching online, radio listeners can go rent it and watch it or get it on Netflix. But The Good Shepherd, Robert Duvall puts it out. It is a historical movie. It shows Skull and Bones. It shows the devil as a king. That shows them doing rituals, blood rituals. ABC News, of course, has covered it, that they really do this and do human sacrifice. But they say it's mock, of course, being urinated on, bathing in feces. Here's some of that. I mean, this is what most of the CIA directors, many presidents, secretaries of state, and it's on record. Encyclopedia Britannica admits Skull and Bones was founded out of the Bavarian Illuminati in 1824. They came and set up with British money, but a German death cult. It's just another branch of that, of course, caused the French Revolution as well. They come over, they set it up, and it's set up by the main opium traders of that time with a monopoly. I mean, this is incredible. I mean, they're drug-dealing, devil-worshipping, child-kidnapping murderers, but they wear suits and ties. It's an army of psycho killers. And so many atheists say, well, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in any of this. Well, there are pygmy tribes that believe in rock gods. The point is they believe in it in their anthropology. Whether you believe in the devil or not, the New World Order believes in it, and they think killing you is good. Go ahead, Fritz.
Well, and you're headed in the right direction in answering the question that you raised, the issue that you raised a little while ago. Why do they have all these genocidal programs? Because their agenda is not human friendly. It's a satanic agenda that's anti-human. And when I saw the kind of things that they had planned for this planet, that's one of the reasons why I was so highly motivated to do something, even though doing something was not going to be the most secure thing that I could do in life. There's a lot of safer things I could have done, a lot of things I could have done that would have made me more money, given me an easy life, but I couldn't have looked myself in the mirror knowing what I knew and not stood up for humanity and for what's right.
And of course, Fritz, that's providence, that an intelligent, focused, dedicated person like you would run smack dab into an Illuminati nest and get it the best way directly from sources that turned out to be accurate instead of us, you know, here I am 17 years later just putting pieces together. I mean, you really ran into a nest of these guys. I want to talk about that some later before we go to calls, but I also want to talk about what they have planned for this planet. We're about to go to break, but start getting into the, you know, now we kind of got a little snapshot of how they operate, a tiny area, more in the book, obviously, but what do they have planned for the world?
Well, as you were intimating just a minute ago, it's genocide. You know, death and destruction, rob, kill, and destroy. They rob us, they kill us, they destroy our souls, and that's why, you know, it's satanic. It's not just a neutral. Okay, they want to make money. A lot of times people think, they use the excuse, well, Hollywood's making movies because that's what makes money. No, they put out a lot of movies that are pushing an agenda, not because they're going to make money, but because it's got an agenda behind it. They
print the money. This is their warfare system. I mean, they are attacking us. And what does the Bible say? That in the end times, you know, that the dark magicians, the dark lords of the New World Order would traffic in the souls of men, and that no flesh would be spared if God didn't intervene. And now look at the bioweapons, all of it. We'll be right back with Fritz Springmeier. Get the book, Infowars.com. Goes deep down the rabbit hole. Fritz, talk about disgusting deception. Here's Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Ted Turner, all of them on record in journals that, you know, aren't for public distribution, but are public. They're just not widely distributed, but we've republished it, documented it. Rockefeller Foundation, you know, they're meeting with them. Rockefeller Foundation about sterilants and vaccines, GMO, food really designed to reduce fertility, give you cancer. It's all out there. We know they're doing it. And they're all over the news, helping the children, and Bill Gates with black Africans all around him, and he's smiling at them. And I mean, and you can, if you have any discernment, plus you know what he is, you're looking at an absolute devil with people begging and thanking him, and everything he's doing is a fraud. And it is just so crazy that they're running around doing this to people and then financing the media, actually paying to have them say the opposite. And you see he's constantly has this smug, satisfied look and is on the verge of laughing. And it is a demonic, satisfied control freak. I just see the spirit of just, we run things, we're forcing our will, and we're going to do this to you. And they just enjoy dominating and hurting everyone. It is, but I mean, getting into the GMO, all this, they're trying to play God. Your views on that?
Well, yeah, I concur. Another example that came to my mind as you were talking was I've talked to people who, you know, as children, you know, George Bush, the first George Bush president, was a pedophile and sexually molested some of these people, and then I'm early in the 90s. I'm looking at a Masonic magazine put out by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, and they have his picture playing with kids. You know, I mean, it's just something you want to gag and barf at.
And again, you're being told this by people, and so much of what they told you separately turned out to be true. You hope it's not true, but then there's Bohemian Grove that Richard Nixon said is a giant homosexual orgy, and the New York Post and Associated Press say they fly in plane loads of gay porn stars to have sex with them. This is on the news. We don't know who exactly is doing it in there. I saw photos in the camps when I was there for 5 hours of Henry Kissinger dressed up in drag, and I can't even say what he was doing on a family show, but he was, I mean, it's just, you know, again, and then you see Sandusky, and then the local writers that expose it say, look, it was the alumni paying money. This guy was raping kids in broad daylight in the shower like he was taking a dog for a walk. They don't even hide this. All these congressmen caught in bathrooms, Fritz. I mean, you know, exactly. It's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
These are the kind of things that motivated me to challenge all of this and expose it. It was disgusting to the nth degree. There were times when people that I was working with that had been in the Illuminati, they would tell me a story. One time with Cisco, she told me something that had happened. I actually broke down on the floor. I melted into the floor and cried for a whole day. I mean, I didn't even know a person could sob for a whole day, but I did. I cried for a whole day. This stuff is, it's absolutely incredible and way beyond people's imagination, because a normal, decent person's imagination can't even go there. And so that's why I got motivated to actually do what I did. And other people that have bumped into it and the depth of depravity are also going to be motivated just like me. You were talking about what is their agenda. Well, one piece of their agenda is the destruction of the United States. The United States does not mean anything to these people. And I'll give you a little bit of your listeners a little clue on this, because I love my country and I love the ideals that they at least claimed that this country was founded on in the Declaration of Independence: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, I'm all in favor of that. And so in 1976, we had our bicentennial. And those of us that were proud Americans were proud that a country that was founded on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness had survived for 200 years. What was happening while we were celebrating the bicentennial? Why, our Congress people were getting together and quietly signing another document, a Declaration of Interdependence, where they pledged themselves to support the destruction of the United States.
I remember that. Stay there. I want to come back with that and more. And I'll give out the number for folks to join us. Again, I've been on the radio since 1996. I read Fritz's seminal book. He's written, I don't know, 15 others or something. Bloodlines of the Illuminati, and I just didn't believe it. I mean, some of it I knew from history, and some of it I could confirm, the parts that I knew, but I just was like, this is not going on. Of course, back then, British broadcaster and best-selling author, he wrote the book that's now turned into Men Who Stare at Goats with George Clooney and all that. He wrote the book, Them. He said, no, they really do this ritual at Bohemian Grove. They do fly in the prostitutes and stuff. And he said, for liability stuff, I just want to use you and have you go in, because the TV, folks won't let me do it. And I said, okay, fly me out there. I don't believe that's going on. This is about a year before I actually went in 2000. He said, okay, coming up next year. They just had it this year. I've got a source inside and everything. I mean, that's just 12, 13 years ago that I was ignorant. And again, he says he has a source that says this about a president or whatever. All I know is these presidents launch wars, killing hundreds of thousands of people, and lie to us, and the government is involved shipping drugs in. All I know is that you can type in DynCorp Halliburton sex trade, including children. You'll get Chicago Tribune, Associated Press, but nobody gets in trouble. All I know is you can type in UN child kidnapping, and you'll get thousands of articles. All I know is that a lot of crazy stuff goes on at Bohemian Grove. And remember Abu Ghraib and the 30-plus other camps. You can read the Army's report. Type in Abu Ghraib, Army report on Abu Ghraib. Abuse is what they called it. General Tagumbu, American general. You read it, and it says acid. I'm not going to say on air what they do with it. Acid and children and raping. Now, this is what the military and the people they hired as dungeon keepers were doing to people to make them talk. And then you go, oh, well, that was isolated. No, they were ordered to. They found folks that would do it. Remember all the 24 shows and stuff where they torture the kid in front of the dad to get the answer, and that would stop the nuke from going off? And law enforcement magazines, I remember reading one like in 99, was like, an anthrax bombs are going to go off all over the city and probably kill hundreds of thousands. The terrorists won't talk, not even under torture. But you've got his son. What do you do? Well, with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, he wouldn't talk after 4 or 5 years of waterboarding. They brought his wife and kid and his little son and threatened him. The news said, well, we threatened him, and he confessed. to 9/11 and blowing up buildings as well that weren't built when he was in custody. He basically confessed to, shooting Lincoln. This is the dungeon keepers, the demon spawn of pure hell, openly selling you on all these shows and dramas everywhere on how cool it is to torture, how awesome it is. In fact, I mean, every major movie I see that's got cops in it, that cops watch and fantasize like Law-Abiding Citizen, torturing people, but they always deserve it in situational ethics and getting rid of the Constitution and the cops celebrate it and agree. I've learned to hate the Constitution. I've learned you're right. And the guy's like, good, I've murdered all these people. Good. He's like the hero military guy. And I mean, so Fritz, they are clearly selling everyone now on what they want. Here's the toll-free number to join us, 800-259-9231. Quick questions or comments for Fritz Springmeier, 800. And he'll come back in a month or so. We're going to have him on a lot. 800-259-9231 is the number to join us. If you disagree, agree, 800-259-9231. Fritz Springmeier. But my point is, you cannot deny this is the agenda because they are openly trying to sell us on things that was in your book 17 years ago like it's good, Fritz.
That's right.
I mean,
we were talking about the Declaration of Interdependence, where our leaders pledged themselves to destroy the United States and our industry and make us dependent on other nations. See, the ideals that these banner issues that they have us fight wars for, they don't even care about. This is one of my favorite posters. I have it hanging on my wall, say freedom of speech, right? But it's a World War II poster that the government put out to get people to fight World War II and give money to the government in war bonds. And so I would ask you, do these people that pledged, that signed that Declaration of Interdependence, do they really care about this? When they send us off to die in these wars, do they really care about us or care about these issues that they have us supposedly die for? Are they really trying to save our freedom of speech, or what are they trying to do?
Well, Fritz, I disagree with you on this point, and of course in a nuanced, joking way. It's not that they don't care about America. They hate the United States and pay tax incentives and use our tax money to move General Electric and General Motors and others out of the country. It's not just that our jobs are leaving. They're paying with our taxes to get rid of our jobs. They absolutely hate this country. And you're right, pledged to bankrupt us and take us from the most intelligent, highest test scores, strongest family values, best nation to the worst. And they're celebrating now that more Americans now than not do not get married. They're not having children. And when they do, they say women run it all. And the women work with the state. And I hope you enjoy your 2,000% plus increase in breast cancer, too, because the globalist, the state isn't a very nice husband. It's run by devil-worshipping killers that gang rape children in Iraq. Solo nation, American consumers, stay single. And I heard it being celebrated today and callers going, the family's archaic. Oh, yeah, let's not even have a civilization. And Miss Magazine, CIA funded, breaking everything up, Fritz, they knew exactly what they were doing. And they have just devastated. And you've got a bunch of selfish people running around. And that's really what Satanism is. Because when you think, I'll cheat everybody, I'll only care about myself, me, I get ahead that way. No. You poison the well. I mean, I hate to use the analogy of people in public pools urinating in the pool, but you don't want to go to the big public pool when there's 300 kids in it because you know you're bathing in a toilet. And then it gets so toxic that there's so much chlorine you can't even get it because it burns your eyes. Okay? This is what Satanists do. They run around wrecking everything and then say, because I'm just doing what I want. But really, it's because they do. To them, maggots, black, uniforms, death, children with their bones sticking out, starving. I've seen the art that Schwarzenegger and all these elites are into, studying it. And it's like kids run over by cars. I saw Schwarzenegger in Germany. He flew there just to buy a bunch of this art and was with the artist. I found it on an obscure German site one time searching for Schwarzenegger photos. And it was like dead babies, little girls dressed up in Nazi outfits, children run over by cars. And it was just Schwarzenegger's quotes about how beautiful this was. And to them, it's just beautiful. I mean, they go see a dead, I mean, I've read reports where, they see a dead animal with maggots and they'll just stop and, oh, it's so pretty. Oh, like psychos like that smell. Oh, this is beautiful. These are malfunctioning cancers. And normal people have to rout them out. Fritz, your comment, and we're going to calls.
Yes, some of them are obviously just simply parasites. Now, some of them are actually producing something of value or making decisions that help run the system, but there's plenty of them that are parasites, and it's frightening the cancers, so to speak, that they're spreading amongst us at different levels.
Any other points you think are important to make here of the ocean of info you've got before we go to calls?
Wow, we've covered a lot. Nothing that comes to my mind within a short. I started to talk about Onassis, and I sent you guys a picture showing Jackie Kennedy while she was still married to JFK going on board Onassis's yacht. I thought that would be an interesting picture to show your audience, because it kind of pulls the curtain away from, backstage. There's a lot that's strange that's happening. And so Onassis was the kingpin who helped coordinate the assassination of JFK. And then he gets to, like a bandit, he runs off with JFK's wife.
Incredible, but expanding on that, because your Skype's breaking up real bad, just to interrupt there, to expand on that, it's the same story over and over and over and over again. And we've got to go to calls, but briefly, how far back do these bloodlines go? I mean, obviously it ties into their delusion that they're Merovingians and that Christ had children with Mary Magdalene. Right.
It goes way back. The Rothschilds, in their secret genealogy, take themselves all the way back to Nimrod. If I had had time, I was going to try to find some artistic portrayal of Nimrod for you. Some of them go back to your ancient Roman elite families. Some of them go back to the Venetian families that go back even further. The tribe of Dan which was the black sheep of Israel, they have provided a bloodline that's crept into a lot of other bloodlines. They go back to the pharaohs. And they've kept track of all of this stuff in their secret genealogies, and
that's why the Bill Gates and all of them are obsessed with the genealogy. That's why they take blood from babies at birth worldwide. They needed that blood to test it for their genealogy programs. But take the Astor family. It's admitted that Anderson Cooper is CIA, but left, and that he's one of the heirs to the Astor fortune. I mean, it just never ends. These people are everywhere.
They are. And the connections are endless, too. Once I started researching it, you would look at one Illuminati character and you would start seeing him connected to all these other Illuminati families. And then the people that they hire and everything it's just one big network. In fact, that's even one word that they use for themselves, is the network.
All right, I want to go to some phone calls here. Let's go ahead and talk to Dwayne in California, then Sergio, Richard, Jim, and Tony. Dwayne, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I've done a lot of research on what Fritz Springmeier is talking about, bloodlines of Illuminati, and I've seen this information. Had just done tons of research as well, and it's amazing when you look at the interbreeding that's going on between like the Rothschild, Rockefeller.
Look at how all the presidents in the last 100 years are all related. I mean, Obama's related to all of them. I mean, it's crazy. And it's not like they're just cousins once or twice, or Bush and Kerry go to the same secret society. They were cousins on every angle. It's like if you have a French bulldog, it's related to all the other French bulldogs. They're their own psycho interbreeding program. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. It's amazing though that you find these families in Europe, Britain, the United States, and they're all somehow related way back when, whether it was 3 generations or a recent generation. And there's all some sort of connection, even with the George Bush family, Bush, Clinton, George H.W. Bush, and Obama. They all seem to have some relationship and some connection, either genetically or interbreeding somehow. And it's disgusting when you find out how many of them actually have the same agenda.
Oh, it's the exact same agenda, and they all go to occultic retreats. The liberals have their own Bohemian Grove. Helmut Schmidt, who was the German chancellor, wrote Men and Powers, a political retrospective, and said, yeah, we're the Illuminati. We do our own rituals at our own grove, and we are setting up to the Bilderberg Group a world government. I mean, I own the book. I did screenshots of it for my Bohemian Grove films, and he just admits the whole thing and says, we do rituals. We do druidic rituals. I appreciate your call. 60 seconds before we go to other calls on the Druid connection. I know that's big in your book.
Are you going to a caller? Or
no, I'm going to you, Fritz, because
okay.
Schmidt said they're Druids. Go ahead.
Yeah. Druids is one of the lines of magic that's practiced. There's many different types of magic, but Druidism is one of the larger forms of magic. And you definitely see a lot of Druidic. We have a full-size replica of Stonehenge here in this area, and the Illuminati practice rituals at secretly near that Stonehenge the monument. You know, it's actually got all of the full-scale rock pillars and everything.
Yeah, isn't Oregon one of the main monarch mind control centers?
I don't know if it would be one of the main ones, but we've got our share of it. It seems to be that no matter where you go, you find this stuff.
Let's go to Richard in Texas. Richard, you're on the air.
Thank you for taking my call, Mr. Jones and Mr. Springmeier. I'd just like to ask you, have you guys ever heard of the Black Boule? They're the other side of the Skull and Bones. They're there to protect the white Skull and Bones. They operate out of the Greek system, the Kappa, Phi, Beta, and all the different other groups, subgroups, and they're pretty much recruited out of the top colleges and universities, black and white universities.
Yeah, I know there's all sorts of spin-offs of lodges. That's why Skull and Bones is 322. And then they'll test people at these things. They'll say, okay, now we're going to have sex with a goat, you know, as part of the ritual for the university. And you're like, well, that's gross. Well, you're not going to be in the club. Because if you'll go along with this, next it's going to be people. But, yeah, let's get Fritz's comment on how all these other societies are feeders into the darker rat holes.
The Black Boule, I did write about it at one point, but what I wrote didn't get published or in print. But yes, I was aware that they have organizations for the blacks that want to participate in all of this. You're right. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yes, sir. Anything else?
Yes, they have their own flag, their own song, and to me, they're some of the biggest sellouts because they're the ones that help keep the races separated. Because they're the ones that push the race card the most. They're the ones that, tell black.
You know, it's funny you say that, and God bless you. We're about to go to break, but call back in again. I want to hear more about that. Sergio in California, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, I just want to say real quick that I've been a long time, well, not a long time, but last few years, ever since George Bush Jr. got elected into president, kind of woken up after I seen the Bohemian Grove video. I just wanted to thank you for the work that you've been doing. And just to make a comment real quick, I did this like research project for a history class over here at the junior college, and what I ended up talking about in my paper was I cited this book called The Master Game by Robert S. DeRope. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, but in the game, or not in the game, but in the book, they highlight like low games and high level games that the elites like to play in, and one of them is the Moloch game. And when I read like how they describe the Moloch game, it essentially sounds like exactly like the shock and awe report that the Bush administration put out before the actual shock and awe campaign. I was wondering if you guys knew anything about that.
Comments on that, Fritz?
Yeah, the principles behind shock and awe have been around for a long time. So they bring these things out every few years. And
all right, let's jam in another caller here as we got to break and end the official show. The whole hour of retransmission's coming up, but I'm going to continue with Fritz. Tony in Pennsylvania, you're on the air.
How you doing, Alex?
Good. Almost out of time.
Okay, I just wanted to start out just saying that everything comes down to religion. I grew up with no religion at all in the home, and this research, every which way, comes back to it. Even with Albert Pike's book, Morals and Dogma, on the cover, Order Out of Chaos, looking up those words, order, one of the definitions is one of the 9 sex or choirs of angels, and you look up chaos, and one of the definitions is the bottomless pit, the abyss.
Order out of chaos.
And that's one of the definitions. Everything they do comes back to some kind of religion.
Amazing. Hey, I'm going to be back this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. with The Sunday Show. Back tonight. Let's talk to Adam in Australia. You're on the air with Fritz Springmeier. Go ahead. Yes, Adam, from Australia.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Alex. I didn't realize I was on.
You're on.
I've been trying to get through to you, and I apologize. This question is not for your guests. I need to say something to you. I have information that I must get to you. I've left a message on Rob's answering machine at your office. I must get you this information. I will pay thousands of dollars, literally, to be able to get this to you in a secure way.
Well, it's not the money. It's that, I mean, we don't have time. Everybody wants to try to get us a message. I mean, you have to tell us some of what it's about.
I can tell you there's 2 things. One, I have information which pertains to people, them doing rituals. My girlfriend has just had her friend killed by them. She's had her son kidnapped. And
they run the police and the CPS in most cities. I mean, they publicly rape children at military bases now to make parents talk. I mean, I understand, but I understand they probably control your local media, but you just need to do a YouTube and expose the whole thing. When you're afraid of them, they get off on it. When you have no fear of them, it absolutely freaks them out. But just get us an email, sir, with your basics, and we may try to get back in touch with you. It's just that we're getting 10,000 emails a day, no exaggeration. Fritz, from your research, don't they get off on the fear and terrorizing people?
yes, you said it so well. I would strongly advise people, do not give in to your fears. Do not think about your fears. Whatever your fears are, that's what's going to manifest into your life. And they watch, and the demons, the Illuminati, the CIA, all of these groups, Mossad, they watch and see what your fears are, and then they work up nasty things in conjunction with what those fears are.
Yeah, and my fear is a failure in defeating the New World Order. Everything's in, my name, my family, my treasure, everything. Just, it's in God's hands, and that's the end of it. You got to put yourself in God's hands and say, God, try to make me a good person. I'm a willing vessel. I want to serve good. I want to confront evil. And the more you face fear, the more you sacrifice, the blessings are just unbelievable. Fritz, is that not what you've discovered?
Sometime we might show the pyramid structure that I sent.
Yes, we'll put it on screen. It's been on screen. Go ahead.
Okay, and also I sent a picture of the Mother of Darkness castle. That relates to the Bloodlines book that we've been talking about. The people can read about the castle in the Bloodlines book. That happens to be the headquarters for the women's hierarchy branch, and very important, powerful castle. And I sent a picture of that.
Well, I'll tell you what, Fritz, you've done an incredible job, but you're back on tomorrow night on the Nightly News, and we'll pick up where we left off.
Well, thank you.
You bet. And I'll put a Twitter out for people's questions. I'll ask you some of their questions tomorrow night on the Friday edition. I'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. I'll be back, obviously, tonight, Nightly News. And I will be back this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Great job, Fritz. I'll say bye to you here. And to the audience, great job. Sorry I didn't get to some of those calls, but I got to most of them. We're getting into some key info straight ahead on the naked body scanners at the Super Bowl. Stay with us. If you believe in this information and want to support its viral spread, go to the InfoWars store at InfoWars.com. We've got the new G.I. Joe InfoWars T-shirts. We've got the incredible Pro Pure gravity-fed filters available at InfoWars.com in the store. We've got a new DVD, Scientists Under Attack, the Don't Tread on Me flag. We've got all sorts of different bumper stickers to help spread the rebellion virally. It's all there. Wristbands, citizen rule books in every order. Order online at InfoWars.com today. The water filters, the canteens. It's all there. InfoWars.com.